Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer, not coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city. I'm downtown. I'm just downtown Shreveport on this beautiful Monday here for the Radiance Technology Independence Bowl's kickoff dinner. I'll be up on stage a little bit later this evening with Tyron Matthew. Looking forward to a great night here in Shreveport. Good to get back home yesterday, see the folks, see the nieces, and do a little radio here for 2 hours from 1 to 3. We're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. We've got a ton to react to over the next couple of hours. LSU had its first scrimmage over the weekend. Lane Kiffin met with the media earlier on today, so we'll hear some of what he had to say. We'll get into our Meet the Freshmen a little bit later on, and the Saints got their preseason started over the weekend in the Dome with the loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So got Cassie Spazzali, Jordan Kitchens back there on the ones and twos in studios, fired up to be with you. Let's get things started the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
We'll start with Saints and Jaguars. Saints come up a little bit short. 24-20 is the final score from the Superdome down there. Jacksonville outscores the Saints 18-0 after halftime to win the ball game, and no one really cares about that. It's really just about what we saw on the field. And as far as takeaways, no, you did not have your starters out there. They were not going to play in the first preseason game, so it's a lot of backups, guys that are fighting for a roster spot in New Orleans and fighting to put tape together for the other teams in the NFL, quite frankly. And so I understand that we're taking all of this with a grain of salt. We understand that very few of the guys that were out there making an impact, especially in the second half of that game on Saturday night, are going to be impactful for the Saints during the regular season, but I do think there were some things to take away. And I'll start with the positives. I really thought that Zach Wilson played well. Understanding he's playing against guys that are probably going to get cut. I get it. He didn't even start the game. So you're really talking about, when you talk about the second quarter, third quarter of this football game, playing against guys that are not going to be on an NFL roster this year. But I did like the way that he commanded things. I liked the way he pushed the ball down the field. He averaged 9.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 145 yards and a touchdown. And I thought really looked good. The backup quarterback in the NFL, you're hoping is a guy that can come in and just steady things. It's obviously not going to be an ideal situation. And nobody is suggesting that Zach Wilson is auditioning for the starting role with the New Orleans Saints. That's not what you want. We've seen that movie, and it didn't end very well. But he is competing for that spot with Spencer Rattler, and I thought had a really nice day commanding Kellen Moore's offense. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked comfortable. I thought he showed some of his athleticism. I thought he showed some of his arm talent. I thought it looked good. On the flip side of things, I did not think it was a good day for Spencer Rattler at all. I mean, the start he got off to was just awful. Now, the Saints got off to a great start. Ty Chandler with the kickoff return, and then Estime bounces one outside and score. So the Saints got off to a good start in the game, but I didn't think Rattler looked good at all. Took a couple of sacks. One of those resulted in a turnover. You can't have that. It was one of those turnovers that's just inexcusable for a player that's been in the league for a couple of years now. Just not protecting the football, not aware of what's going on the field, and then it takes a big hit and drops the ball. Cannot have that. Thought that he struggled with accuracy on the first couple of throws, and he settled in and did complete 8 of 11, so the line looks okay. But if you actually watched what he was doing out on the field, it did not look good. And I think right now, I would suggest that Zach Wilson is making this a very interesting competition for the backup quarterback spot. You don't want to have to use the backup quarterback, but I think that you're seeing a real competition there, and I thought that Zach Wilson got a leg up in the preseason game. Now, look, the preseason game is one thing. Joint practices are another, and there are more reps to come, but you're talking about the first time under the lights, and I thought in that instance that Zach Wilson certainly outperformed Spencer Rattler. When it comes to the running backs, I thought it was a nice day. Got off to a great start with Ty Chandler on that huge return, and then Estime with the nice touchdown run. Estime averaged 5.5 yards a carry with a long of 9, so it wasn't like he busted one. He just consistently was turning up some yards on the ground. Chandler did the same thing, and I like to see see those two guys. I think they're competing for a spot on this football team. You know that you oftentimes deal with injuries at the running back position. The Saints certainly have dealt with injuries at the running back position over the last couple of years. Kamara's had trouble staying healthy, so we'll see. But I don't expect at all to see Kendre Miller on this football team. He's never healthy, and you've now brought in some other options that appear to be viable ones, and you're fighting for the third and fourth running back positions anyway. And I think that Audric Estime showed you at the end of last year that he is a capable backup in the NFL, and I think that Ty Chandler has had a nice training camp and made a highlight play when given the opportunity in the opener. So I really liked what I saw from those guys. Shout out to Ross Jackson on LouisianaSports.net and on After Further Review with Matt, talked about Bub Means and his rapport that he's developed with Zach Wilson in training camp. I thought that Bub Means had a really nice day. 4 catches, 77 yards, averaged almost 20 yards per catch. That was really nice to see. I personally, of course, LSU guy, love to see Barryon Brown making that nice play down the right sideline. He caught all 4 of his targets for 53 yards. I thought that was a really positive thing. Speaking of former LSU Tigers, Trey Palmer showed up and made a 16-yard catch. He had 4 catches. You saw some guys that are fighting like heck to get a roster spot, make some plays in this game. And let's be honest, a spot at receiver opened up when you saw the retirement of Jalen Polk. When Jalen Polk retired, that freed a roster spot because Jalen Polk was going to make this team, obviously. So that is just a gifted spot to somebody in this position with Bub Means, with Barryon Brown, with Trey Palmer, with Kevin Austin. Like one of those guys, maybe even Ronnie Bell, is going to make this team that maybe wouldn't have. And it was good to see those guys show out and make some plays. Oscar Delp got involved, of course, had the touchdown catch. One of his 3 catches went for a score. Good to see him healthy because we know that he got banged up early in camp, and I thought that was a really, really good thing. So that's a look at the offense where I thought there were some real positives, especially early in the game. Defensively, I thought the most impactful thing that I saw were the reps that Christian Miller gave. I really thought in the interior of the Saints defensive front that Christian Miller did a nice job of being noticeable. Like that's rarely is a defensive tackle going to make a bunch of statistics. And you look at the stat sheet and Christian Miller had 4 tackles, 1 was solo. Like it's not some huge day, and he wasn't out there the whole game anyway. But you noticed Christian Miller, and I was looking for him. That was something I was paying attention to. It's easier in a preseason game when you don't really care about the results of the game to kind of pay attention to some specific things as you're watching. And I think Christian Miller's role has been bolstered on this team with the absence of Brian Brzee. I don't think there's any way you could argue against that. He's going to have to play some on the defensive interior. You invested in a high draft pick in it. You got to play him. And I thought I noticed him early in the game on Saturday. I thought that was a really, really good thing on the defensive side. Jalen Ford was everywhere out there. He had 8 tackles, had a pass defensed. He hit the quarterback. I thought he really, really looked well. And Ross Jackson wrote this, and I tend to agree with him. He thinks that Jaden Price is trending towards a spot on the 53-man roster. A cornerback who is taking the long route to the NFL. There's no question about that. You're talking about a guy that was at North Dakota State, went undrafted. Falcons picked him up, bounced into the CFL, then into the UFL, and then landed with the Saints last year and was a practice squad player. And he's kind of found his niche at that slot defender role. And he was noticeable in the game on Saturday, and that's a guy that Ross thinks can absolutely make the 53-man roster, and I don't think that would surprise me at all if he did. You've got an opportunity there with to be a backup to Jonas Sanker. You kind of have a changing of the guard in the secondary, and so I think that Jaden Price is potentially a guy that could make a move there. He's a young player, but a player that has got a lot of football adversity behind him and has persevered through it, and I thought you noticed him in the game on Saturday, so that was a really good thing as well. That's kind of unloading my notebook here. Of course, Ford and Price both had an interception, so that was a good thing. And then you go to the field goal kickers. That's the last thing I had on my list. Tanner Brown makes both of his field goals, including a 49-yarder. Charlie Smith misses. And it feels like Tanner Brown is moving ahead in that place kicker battle. That's the way it feels right now. Charlie Smith is a big talent, and you can keep him around on that exemption because you've gotten him from overseas. So he may be a guy that they keep around, but you've got to have a kicker you feel confident in. And Charlie Smith is just quite frankly missing too many kicks. He's missing kicks at practice. He's missing kicks in preseason games. He made both of his extra points, and that's a good thing. But Tanner Brown was called on to knock home 2 field goals and did it. And I think that that that's a guy that, based on what we're hearing out of practices and what we're seeing now in the games, that's probably going to be your kicker. We'll see. But the Saints have struggled to find a kicker over the last 2 years. I think that's putting it very, very mildly. And it's just not a position that the Saints can go into this season with unsettled. They need a solidified kicker because I believe, as I've said many times, when we start breaking this position down, you are going to be in close games. The Saints are not good enough to blow a bunch of teams out. They're just not. The Saints aren't good enough to blow a bunch of teams out. They're going to have to win in the margins. They're going to have to win tight games, and you cannot win tight games if you're missing 45-yard field goals, if you're missing 52-yard field goals. You will not win close games if you're giving away points. The Saints are not going to be good enough to do that, and I think Tanner Brown is slowly easing his way to the leadership position at that kicker spot. So that's my take on Saints and Jags. Saints will now head out west. They will have some joint practices, got another preseason game coming up. It's a big week for New Orleans, no question about that, facing up against one of the better teams in the NFL in practice. We'll see how things measure up. I'm curious to see that because we know that last year when the Saints practiced with the Rams, it did not go very well when the media was allowed to watch a little bit. So hopefully the Saints can level their game up this week. Hopefully they can get a good week of work in and keep moving forward towards that first football game that's coming up early on in September. So that's our opening drive, talking a little bit of Saints. Can I be really honest with y'all? Something happened this weekend. It was a disaster. A disaster. I missed a week. I thought, Melissa and I are going out of town this weekend, so I knew I had plans this weekend, and I thought Clemson was the next week. I thought LSU Clemson was the next week. It's not. There's another week in there. Somehow, some way, my brain just missed that week. And when I came to the realization that it was not 2 weeks till LSU plays, it's 3 weeks, it was a sickening feeling. I really thought we had made it all the way. I thought I got 1 weekend, we're going to go away, have some fun, then come back. Nope, missed a week. It was a bad feeling. It was Saturday when I realized that. Tough scene. But we'll get there one way or another. Let's talk some LSU football. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power, GoTrosOnline.com. GoTrosOnline.com is that website. Talking with my guy Gant Gotro over the weekend. He was telling me about the awesome deals they've got going on in the month of August. Still got half the month to get on by, so go see them. They got up to $1,000 off select Gravely, Skag, and Hustler zero turns, and they got 0% financing as well. So look, if you're looking for a zero-turn mower, you've got a property to manage, or you've got that grass that's growing out of control and you need a zero-turn mower, there's no better place to stop than GoTro's Outdoor Power. 2 locations, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, and then 1 in Gonzales as well. National Hustler Dealer of the Year 2 of the last 3 years. GoTro family's been at this for 22 years. There's no place you'd rather go if you need a zero-turn mower than GoTro's Outdoor Power. Check them out at GoTrosOnline.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Back here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, here from downtown Shreveport at Shreveport Convention Center tonight. Radiance Technology Independence Bowl kickoff dinner. Myself and Tyron Matthew will be up on stage reminiscing about some of his life of Louisiana football. Very much looking forward to that and appreciate the folks at the Independence Bowl for having me up here this evening and for setting up so we could do a little radio today, and got a lot to talk about. We certainly just hit the Saints preseason opener. Let's shift things over to LSU, and I specifically wanted to talk about a specific player today because he made a big play in the scrimmage on Saturday, we're told, even though there was no media allowed, and I'm curious about his role moving forward in this offense, and it's Harlem Berry. We know Harlem's backstory, obviously. Huge recruit, #1 tailback in the country. Frank Wilson spent a decade recruiting him, and LSU was able to secure his commitment. And he comes in, and if you looked at Harlem Berry last year as a freshman, he was undersized. Like, he was not a physically imposing SEC running back, was not ready to carry the ball 25 times between the tackles in a league game. And that's not unusual for a freshman not to be ready to do that. They don't all look like Leonard Fournette when they show up. But Harlem Berry came in and was kind of a spot player for LSU. He played in 13 games. He started the final 6 games of the year. He had 104 carries on the season, ran for 491 yards, averaged about 4.5 yards a carry, made 8 catches for 32 yards. And I thought had his moments. Had a really nice touchdown, 6-yard run against Ole Miss where he broke a tackle. I thought he looked really good in the game against Texas A&M, and for whatever reason, LSU went away from him in that game, started throwing the ball way too much, and then got behind and had to throw the ball in the second half. Just an absolute disaster in that game. But I thought in early part of that game, it's like our memories of the Texas A&M game are atrocious because you think about the empty stadium and all the Aggie fans swaying and doing all whatever they do, and you're just getting your butt kicked and end up getting your coach fired that day. But in the first half, LSU did some really good things. They forced a couple of turnovers, they blocked a kick, and Harlem Berry really did run the ball well in that game, but he didn't do much in the second half. His highest SEC rushing total was actually the game against Alabama. He had a 37-yarder in that game against Alabama, ended up running for 66 yards in the game. But he's put on a little bit of weight, and I think he's got a chance to be really dynamic in this Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr. offense. But the question is, how many carries per game is he going to get? And I think that's not the way I'm going to choose to phrase it. I think with Harlem Berry, I'm looking for touches as opposed to carries. I think he can really be a weapon in the passing game, in the screen game, with option routes, with as much space as LSU's going to create, with the numbers advantage that Sam Leavitt gives, with his ability to move his feet. I think that there are some real opportunities to create some space and let Harlem Berry get out into space, because his best ability, his best talent is getting out in open space, making people miss, and outrunning people. His talent is not meeting linebackers in the hole and breaking tackles and falling forward. His talent is space. So I think Dylan Jones' role in this offense is as kind of the bell cow back. I expect Dylan Jones to lead LSU in carries. But I do think that Harlem Berry will touch the ball a lot. And the kind of the target I have for him in this offense per game, I would like Harlem Berry to touch the ball 11 or 12 times in every game. And if that means that 5 of them are catches, that's fine with me. I think that's great. I think he's a weapon out of the backfield, creating a little bit of space. Lane Kiffin has often talked about the way they devise their offense. And when I start talking about LSU, I talk about, well, at Ole Miss, they did this with Trinidad Chambliss, and they did this when they had Jackson Dart, and they did this with Kejuan Lacey. They did this when they had Kejuan Judkins. Not Kejuan Lacey, Quinshawn Judkins. But what Kiffin always says is that they're not going to do things because that's what they do. They're going to do things that the players are good at. And so when I hear him say that and I start to think about the weapons they have on offense, Harlem Berry comes to mind. And I think that's a guy that you're going to see on the edge a lot. I think that's a guy they're going to line up in the slot some, motion him out, make linebackers go out there and try to cover him. Remember, Harlem Berry in one of the All-American games went out and played wide receiver. They had too many running backs, so he went out and played wide receiver. Like, he's that talented and that adept at being split out. So I want to see Harlem Berry utilized more than just, hey, line up next to Sam Leavitt, read option, zone blocking scheme, find a hole and go. I want to see creativity with him. I think you're going to see, when I think about jet sweeps, I think that's going to be a Jace Brown thing. In the spring, we were able to go out to a lot of practices, and we saw Jace Brown really being used in that jet sweep role time and time and time again. And so I think that's probably the case. But I think that there is a spot for that with Harlem Berry as well. Because getting him out into open grass is going to be the goal, and it sounds like they were able to do that on Saturday. I think as I start to parse out the touches for the running backs, I think it looks something like 50% Dylan Jones, 35% Harlem Berry, 15% Caden Durham. Like, that's kind of what I think. I don't know that I see a huge role for, like, Racine Guillory or Stacey Gage. Like, I'm not confident those guys are at that level. We'll see. We don't know enough about Kevin Smith. We'll learn that this year about how he wants to handle running back rotations. But I think as you look to hammer away at teams, that's where Dylan Jones is going to come into effect. When you look at spreading teams out and creating big plays, I think that's where Harlem Berry shakes out, and I think he's got a chance to be really, really, really good. I shouldn't say we. I shouldn't speak for all of you. I'll speak for myself, and then you'll probably agree. How does that sound? I am scarred from what we saw from this football program the last 2 years on the ground, or what we did not see from this football program over the last 2 years on the ground. Just absolutely awful. It was awful by design. It was awful in terms of a commitment to the run or lack thereof. It was awful in execution. The offensive line was bad. The whole thing was terrible. And I'm just so much looking forward to seeing LSU look competent, lining up and moving the football on the ground. Because when you can't do that, you are fighting with one hand behind your back. And LSU just could not do it. And no one in the SEC ran for more touchdowns last year than the Ole Miss Rebels. No one. And I believe that LSU has enough talent to replicate some of those things. Do they have a back that's as good as Kejuan Lacey? I would suggest no. They don't have a back that's that good. I think Kejuan Lacey is one of the best backs in the country, and I don't think LSU has got that guy on their roster. But I think that the collection of skill sets between Jones and Berry and Durham is enough to be one of the 5 best rushing teams in the Southeastern Conference. I think when you look at Jones's size, his ability to run with low pads and to go between the tackles, I think that's a really good place to start. I think Berry's going to stress teams on the edges, and I think that Caden Durham is a very capable SEC back. I just don't think he's been healthy for a year and a half. Like the last time we saw him healthy was like the South Carolina game as a freshman. Like he hasn't. I mean, he dislocated his foot the next week, his toe the next week, and he really wasn't healthy the rest of his freshman year, and he was banged up last year. So you just haven't seen a healthy Caden Durham, and I think that is a guy that's going to be able to run the football a little bit, and I think that LSU is going to be a team that is physical and runs the ball. It's going to remind me of that 2011 team that hammered teams away with Spencer Ware early in games, that hammered teams away with Kenny Hilliard early in games, and they used the speed of Michael Ford to get to the edge, and then they used the fresh legs of Alfred Blue to run late. And that was a recipe that they used when everybody knew it was coming, and they were able to get it done. And now I would probably prefer to have the Leonard Fournette, Darius Geis, Jeremy Hill, a alpha back. But if you don't, but you've got a combination of skill sets that complement each other, and you do what they do well, which is what Lane Kiffin tells us all the time. That's how they run their offense. I think you got a chance to be a really good rushing team. I was very skeptical last year about LSU's ability to run the ball. I did not trust the offensive line. I did not trust the commitment to the run. I did not trust the play calling and the execution of what they were doing. I didn't in August, and I didn't the whole season. I trust this team to figure out a way to get the ball on the ground and move it forward. And as Lane Kiffin said last week, and I noticed this, and it was something that stood out to me, he said the main thing you've got to do is be able to run the ball when they know you're running it. Run the ball when they know you're running it. And that's the quality of a championship-level football team. You get a lead, teams know you're coming on the ground, and you still execute and get that done. And I think LSU's going to be able to do it. I think Jordan Seaton's going to be an improved run blocker. I think Braylon Moore is a really good run blocker. I think Aluba is a mountain of a human that should be able to move some people. You hear nothing but positive reports on Bo Bordelon, and we'll see what Weston Davis can do out at right tackle. I'm not here to tell you that he's an All-American at this point, but I think that you've got some real pieces up front that can pave the way for this LSU ground game, and I'm excited to see what they can do with Harlem Berry. The thing I'm excited most about when LSU and Clemson get things going, which is in 3 weeks and not 2 weeks as I initially thought, as I told you in the last segment. But the thing that I'm most excited about is to see this team run the football and start going fast. That is something I cannot wait to see, because I know that LSU has smart football fans, and I know they're going to file into Tiger Stadium in that game against Clemson, and they know what they're getting into. They know what Lane Kiffin's MO is. They know what Charlie Weiss's MO is, and they know when you get that ground game going and you start to get that tempo going and the defense is a little bit on its heels and they keep going and they're cooking, that's going to excite that stadium unbelievably. And those of you that will be in that number know exactly what I'm talking about. When you've got a coach who's got an MO and you know what he's trying to do, and then he starts to do it, that's an exciting place to be, and I think that you're going to see that when LSU plays Clemson. I think LSU will, at some point in that game, get that ground game cooking, and when they do and that tempo starts going fast and those running backs are getting tackled and putting the ball down so they spot it, and then the refs saying go, and there's going to be a buzz in that stadium, because we have watched such horrendous rushing football the last 2 years that to see a team that's competent in doing it is just going to be a treat. I can't wait to watch it, and I think Harlem Berry is going to be a big piece to that. Again, if you missed it, sounds like Harlem Berry had a big play in the scrimmage on Saturday. Lane Kiffin was fairly happy with what he saw from his team, but they're now in the dog days. This is the toughest week of camp, because you have that newness that comes in and you're excited, and then you put the pads on and everybody's excited, and then at the end of camp you've got a football game that you're getting ready for. Right now, right there in the middle, this is the toughest part. This is the grind, and it sounds like Lane Kiffin gave him a little bit of a day off today, but they'll be back at it moving forward this week and starting to really earnestly prepare for Clemson, and that'll include running the football a lot. I'm quite confident in that. So that's a little look at LSU. When we come back, we're going to listen to some sound from Lane Kiffin. He met with the media today, had a few things that he discussed. So we'll get into a little bit of that when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com. Jonathan Carbo and his team are awesome folks to work with, especially when it comes to group and employee benefits. If you're an owner of a company or you're a CFO, you're in charge of the benefits, you understand how tight that gets on your bottom line when you're talking about health insurance for your employees. If you've had a couple of bad renewals or you've got one that you're dreading or just had one that didn't go the way that you wanted to, have a conversation with Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group. Say, hey, I'd like to take a second look here. And they're an independent broker. They've got the ability to take a second look with a different carrier and see if you can get some savings there. I'm not promising you an automatic 20% reduction, but I am promising you a quality conversation and a second set of eyes. And that may be exactly what your business needs to help out on the bottom line with your group and employee benefits. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're based in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. They're online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Lifetime Roofing brings you the Hunt Palmer Show each and every day. They're online at LifetimeRoofingLA.com, LifetimeRoofingLA.com. It is storm season. Got to make sure that your roof is in quality condition. If you don't know what kind of condition your roof is in, or you think it might be a little bit old, you think you might have some damage, get them to go up there and inspect it. Maybe all you need is a tune-up, and they can reinforce that roof and make sure that it is ready for hurricane season. Maybe you need a repair, and they can do that as well. And if you need a new roof, of course, Lifetime Roofing can help you out with that as well. They've got 0% financing up to 18 months, and every single new roof that they put on at Lifetime Roofing comes with a lifetime workmanship warranty that, one, ensures the workmanship, two, ensures the materials, which are backed by Certainteed, one of the best and oldest names in building materials. So if you need a new roof, need gutters, need siding, need windows, Lifetime Roofing. Find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com. All right, chugging along here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, always brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Lane Kiffin met with the media earlier today and hit on a number of topics. First one is just his takeaways from Saturday's scrimmage inside Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, I thought the first defense played extremely well. Gave the offense a lot of pressure and really good in coverage. So that was great to see. Obviously, anytime in scrimmages, both sides are never going to look really good. And so first offense struggled for a while, then came back and played well later, which is what we hoped for. But there's a lot of good things to evaluate. We played for a long time, I think 170 total plays. So that was really good to see, to get a lot of information on our guys, and half of it being tackling helped us on some evals too.
So it sounds like there was some good on both sides. This is a second-hand take on what we saw from the scrimmage because we weren't there. But I do like to hear that there was some give and take, because I saw some fall camps that did not involve a lot of give and take. In 2023, we saw a fall camp where the offense just took and took and took and took, and the defense just gave and gave and gave, and then you went out there, and then all of a sudden the offense took and took and took and took, and the defense gave and gave and gave and gave. So you don't want that. You want to see some give and take. Last year, the defense really, really dominated for most of what we got to see. And it turns out that LSU had a really good defense, and the offense was atrocious, and it got even worse when the quarterback was out. So it's good to hear that early on the defense was winning the day, that the offense showed up a little bit later, and there was a little bit of give and take. That's what you want, obviously, out of an early season workout. Lane Kiffin talked about a lot ahead for special teams.
Tough for them, yeah. I mean, that's where they got to push. And, we went out there today, and it was really hot, and did some long drives where they had to stay in with no subs for them to get used to it. So, we've got to push through. We've got to do better, even in areas, that maybe we're really good, or individual players that performed really well Saturday. Like, we got to go to another level. We got to play better than what we played all around, and especially our backups got to play better so we can rotate. We try to make it as hard as possible. I mean, we gave him a break today, 4 minutes. But, you always want to try to create practice harder than the game. And the only way to do that is to really, really push.
They're being pushed right now. This is the week where LSU is going to be pushed the hardest. You're obviously not going to do that in a game week with Clemson, and Lane Kiffin really prioritizes freshness and rest. So next week, I think you're going to start to see things ramp down a little bit. But this stretch of about 10 days, dating back to late last week through the scrimmage on Saturday into this coming weekend when they scrimmage again, that's going to be the most physical time for this LSU team in camp. And Lane Kiffin's going to push them, and obviously that's happening right now. Matt and Moscona was at the press conference today and asked what Lane Kiffin kind of looks for when he's getting a team ready.
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, we really try to look at individual players where they're at, and then from their groups, and then from their sides of the ball, and then what roles can we start to mold people into. We try to look at not just week 1, but week 3, week 5, week 7. Maybe there's players that aren't projecting to maybe be ready for certain roles, but maybe they will be because they're younger players or struggling to learn. So we're in constant meetings about that and trying always to fit pieces and figure out where somebody can take a few plays off of some situation of someone else.
It's just part of the evaluation process, part of camp, part of building depth and finding guys down the depth chart that are able to help you here and there, and that's something LSU is looking to find. There's just so many new pieces on this team. There's so many new pieces on the depth chart, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's in the wide receiver group, whether it's in the secondary. You're trying to find some new players that can come in and that can help you. And then another place where LSU is looking for help is on the defensive front, and you're seeing some youth out there, and we've seen plenty of times throughout camp when you look up there and the first-team defense is out there and you've got 2 true freshmen at defensive tackle. You've got Deuce Gerald's in a defensive tackle. You've got Big Richard Anderson in there defensive tackle. We've seen Lamar Brown running with the 2s at defensive end. And Lane Kiffin was asked if it kind of concerns him to have that kind of youth on the defensive front.
Yeah, I do. I mentioned it before, study everything. We do. If you study old teams win now. And I just think that's the maturity of the player, especially the 4th, 5th-year player, and how they think and what's important to them. And they're used to playing, too. They're veterans. Even in the NFL, obviously, the 5th-year player plays different than the rookie usually. So there's a lot of concern there. And so, how much can we get them ready to do? And that they play really well versus the mistakes that they make, especially because of our schedule, the opener and the ninth SEC game. You don't have those games that, you had those opportunities before.
There's a lot in that bite. It's very candid of him to say, hey, I'm concerned about the defensive linemen and their youth. Like, that's a lot of coaches would say, no concern. We recruit really good players here. Those guys are proving themselves, and we feel great about their contribution to the team. But he did say, yeah, I'm concerned about it, and I am too. I'm concerned about sending 2 freshmen to go play defensive tackle in the Southeastern Conference. I think that is a really, really difficult thing to do. If you tell me you're playing a freshman at running back, okay. You tell me you're playing a freshman at corner, okay. You tell me you're playing a freshman at wide receiver, fine. You tell me you're playing a freshman at defensive tackle, that can be a problem. And I have some trepidation about that. There is a chance that these 2 guys are just that good. That they're just that good and they're ready. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's possible. And if that's the case, awesome. Like, that'll be great, and I'll say that after they have 7 TFLs against Clemson. But I do have some concern about that for sure, because I just think that sending freshmen out there at that position is dangerous. And look, you've got some depth with older players. Malik Blockton's played in the Southeastern Conference. Stephylon Green has played in the ACC. Like, those guys have played, and that's a fairly high floor that they have. But maybe the ceiling on these young guys is just too good, and you just got to put them out there, and we'll see. And the other piece is the end of that bite. If you heard him say that with the way our schedule lays out, with Clemson as the opener, and then with the 9th SEC game, there aren't a lot of games where you're going to blow teams out and get the freshmen in, is basically what he's saying. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he's saying. And when I hear him say that, and I hear him talk about this 9th SEC game, and I hear him talk about the way that the committee does not look at strength of schedule, only how many losses you have, I would suggest you're going to see LSU open up with some winter wins for the foreseeable future as long as Lane Kiffin's here. And we've seen that. They're playing week 0 next year. They're going to play some FCS teams before the real conference deal starts, because he sees value in winning those games by 50 points and putting the freshmen out there in a spot where they can screw up. Like he sees value in that, and he's going to put LSU in those types of positions. So if you're one of these that loves these season opening games, enjoy this one, because you're going to see LSU open the season with some teams they can beat really badly in the Lane Kiffin era, because he wants to get freshmen in games early. Speaking of getting guys into games fairly early, backup quarterbacks are guys that get in when games get out of hand. What about these guys behind Sam Leavitt right now?
Yeah, I think they both have really come a long way since they got here. Son's throwing motion looks completely different, if you notice that, and he's really worked hard on that. I give credit to Jack downstairs with that also. And both those kids have done really well. They got to take care of the ball better, which sometimes happens because they're trying to force plays to win the number 2 spot. But we're really pleased. At that position in general, where it was in the spring, where it is in the fall, is really different.
You never want to use the backup quarterback, but sometimes you have to. And Sam Leavitt runs around a lot and is susceptible to some hits. And it was always going to be difficult to get 3 quarterbacks in this class, because 2 guys are going to have to come in knowing that they aren't going to play. And I thought LSU handled it masterfully by getting 2 guys in here with some talent. And Huson Longstreet's got a ton of talent. Lane Kiffin mentioned his throwing motion. It does look different. They have cleaned some things up. I thought that those guys had a good day when I was out there on Friday at practice. I thought they looked pretty sharp throwing the football. They've had some bumpy days, if we're being honest, throwing the ball. And I think Sam Leavitt's clearly the class of that quarterback room. But I like the talent level that LSU brought in at quarterback, and I think that you're seeing those guys, and I think it was beneficial to them to get as many reps as they did in the spring, because Sam Leavitt couldn't play, and they got a lot of action in the spring, and I think have made some strides. And look, Lane Kiffin has made quarterbacks successful in his offenses, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, and they come from all different backgrounds, and some of them are 5-star recruits, and some of them come from Ferris State, and he's managed to make guys be really, really productive, and certainly did with Trinidad Chambliss last year. And you hope you don't have to use Huson Longstreet or Landon Clark, but those guys are coming along, and that's a good thing to hear. And the last bite we'll get in this segment here from Lane Kiffin was talking about the biggest jump that he saw, that he's seen from his team, and this was his answer.
I think the defensive mentality of the individual players have come together, because you have a lot of alphas over there that have come from other places, some were here, and them meshing together and learning each other. I'm really excited about that. And I think the quarterback being out there every day and being fully healthy has made a big difference.
You would imagine so, right? You got the most important position in American sports, and when you don't have that guy out there in the spring, and then you do in the fall, it should look a little bit better. And I'm hopeful that it has looked better on the offensive side of the football. But I learned a little bit about Lane Kiffin today with the sound bites, that he was pretty forthcoming with some of his answers today. And I thought that was encouraging for our line of work, trying to create content and trying to decipher what he has to say and accurately cover the team when we're not getting the access to practice that we did previously. If we're not going to get access to practice, we're going to have to go off quotes. We're going to have to go off what they tell us. And I think that Lane's done a pretty good job of being rather honest with us about the development he's seen, the concerns that he's got, and what they're doing out there in practice day to day that we're not allowed to see. So that's just a little bit from Lane Kiffin here on this Monday. I want to remind you about First American Bank and Trust. They're online at FABT.com. That's FABT.com. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. There's always one near you. If you want to pick up the phone and call your bank and get someone in Southeast Louisiana, not a call center in Chicago or San Francisco, you bank with First American Bank and Trust. If you want to do business with a bank that makes its decisions locally, when you're talking about your commercial loan, you're talking about your personal loan, work with First American Bank and Trust. They are happy to do that, and they are local. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana means they've got the resources to help you out. So if it's a personal loan, if it's a commercial loan, it's First American Bank and Trust. They're online at FABT.com. Chugging along here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. I am up in Shreveport at the Convention Center here, where tonight Tyron Matthew will be here for the kickoff dinner, and we'll tell some Tyron stories this evening. And I'm going to get to some of those in hour number 2 as well. Still got to talk about a little bit more Saints. Still got to talk a little more LSU. We got our Meet the Freshman segment coming up here in hour number 2. So we've got plenty to get to. I hope you'll stick around with us. Again, we're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions every single Monday. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. Need a truck? There's no better place than Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Get on by this month because they've got unbelievable savings all month long. Their 2026 Chevy Silverado 1500s have 0% APR financing for 5 years plus no monthly payment. 0% APR financing, 5 years plus, no monthly payments for 90 days. If you're looking for a GMC Sierra 1500, they've got those for 2.9 APR financing for 72 months plus an additional $1,500 in allowance. That is now until August the 31st. Got a great selection of pre-owned vehicles that will fit any budget at all. Go check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com. You can see their incredible inventory right there on FabryChevrolet.com. Or you can make that short drive up to St. Francisville on Highway 61. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They're online at FabryChevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Every single Monday, our show is brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions is a national healthcare growth and experience transformation company based in Baton Rouge, not a traditional consulting firm. They partner as a fractional C-suite, meaning they become your executive team before you even hire one. They align your strategy, your operations, marketing, patient, and team experience into one single model. And what makes them different is they're not working like a vendor. They become one with their partners. They protect the integrity of the brand, the business, the patients, and the team members. Most firms are going to hand you a report and leave. That's not what Guarantee Health Solutions does. They come in, they stay, they implement, and they own the outcome that they produce for you. It's Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at GuaranteeHealth.com. That's GuaranteeHealth.com. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. It's such a thrill for me to be here in Shreveport today. You missed that. I'm at the Convention Center, the Independence Bowls. They're having their annual kickoff dinner, and I'll be here to help MC that today. I have such amazingly fond memories of the Independence Bowl growing up. Look, I have been in that stadium to see LSU and Michigan State, LSU and Notre Dame. I've seen Ole Miss. I've seen Alabama. I've seen Oklahoma. I've seen Georgia. I've seen Eli Manning play in the Independence Bowl. I was here for the snow game, which was just an amazing memory I'll have of me forever. For those that don't remember or need a little bit of help jogging your memory on that, it was Texas A&M and Mississippi State, and Shreveport that day got, I would suggest 9 inches of snow. I mean, it was not like flurries coming down. It absolutely dumped snow. And I vividly remember going down, like I've never in my life went snow skiing as a kid. I don't have any like winter gear. So we layered up with whatever we had and went to the game. And I remember going down at halftime and running wind sprints to try to warm up as like a kid, because I don't have the proper clothing to deal with 8 inches of snow. And the game, of course, went into overtime. It was an absolutely incredible game between Mississippi State and Texas A&M. But what an incredible memory! And I remember vividly back then in 1995 when LSU played Nick Saban and Michigan State in the Independence Bowl, and it was a big deal for LSU to make the Independence Bowl. They just had bring back the Magic under Jerry DiNardo, and had Kevin Falk, and Eddie Kennison was on that team, and it was just an incredible scene to have that stadium packed in purple and gold and be super excited about that. Of course, LSU would go on to greater heights, but that was a cool time and a vivid memory that I've got. In fact, my memory from that game, my favorite play, I told Eddie Kennison this story last year when we had him on for a Football Friday, but my vivid memory from that game, I was 7 for that game, and I didn't get to go to a lot of LSU football games, maybe one a year, maybe not even that much, but LSU and Michigan State were playing in the Independence Bowl, and Kennison was my favorite player. I had a white Eddie Kennison t-shirt jersey and a purple Eddie Kennison t-shirt jersey. He was my favorite player, and my parents were fairly young at that time, and they were going to go to the game with LSU and Michigan State, and then they were going to go out that night with their friends. So my grandparents came and picked me up from this game at halftime. And they picked me up and took me home and my parents went out, and then my parents came and picked me up the next day, and my dad thought he was just going to he was going to tell me this cool story about how LSU won the game, and Eddie Kennison took a flag and was waving it around, and it was just a great moment for LSU inside Independence Stadium, and he thought that was going to be a great story for me. Well, I took it as, well, you sent me home at halftime, and I didn't get to see Eddie Kennison grab the flag and wave it after the game, and I just broke down hysterically crying and yelled at my parents for making me leave at halftime before Eddie Kennison took the flag out. I think I love the Independence Bowl. I went to every single Independence Bowl from 1994 to 2008. The first one I missed was in 2008 when LSU was playing that day in the Peach Bowl against was it against, that would have been again, 2008 was against Georgia Tech. So that was the one that I missed, the first one that I missed, because I was covering. I was a student at LSU and was in Atlanta. But I've been to so many Independence Bowls, and I have such great memories of seeing those big time SEC teams, those big Big 12 brands. Miami came one year. I love the Independence Bowl, and I'm thrilled that they would have me tonight for their kickoff dinner, which I'm really very much looking forward to. But that's why we're here in Shreveport. Got a chance to hang out with the family last night. We'll do so a little bit more this afternoon, and then come on back for the kickoff dinner this evening. So very, very much looking forward to that, and appreciate the Independence Bowl for having me out. And we're here at the convention center as they start to set up. They've got the room, and all the tables are all aligned, and should be a really good night here in Shreveport. I'll hit the road early tomorrow morning and be back for the show tomorrow at 1 o'clock, so looking forward to that as well. But we've had a busy first hour. If you missed any of the first hour, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Open things up talking about the Saints and Jaguars. I thought it was a really good day for Zach Wilson. I thought it was a really day for Spencer Rattler. I think that there's some separation coming at the kicker position as well, and I thought there were some really standout defenders in the game on Saturday, so we talked a little bit about that. You can find that segment at Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast. Spent the second segment of the show today talking about Harlem Berry and the LSU running game, and I really feel like Harlem Berry's got a chance to be a really impactful player, even if he's not the bell cow back, and I use air quotes around that. I think that this is a coaching staff that knows how to get the best out of its players, knows how to use its players, and Harlem Berry is certainly an interesting guy that they're going to use. So you can catch that at Hunt on LSU. Had some sound from Lane Kiffin as well, so you can find that at Hunt on LSU. In the second hour, we're going to talk about Meet the Freshmen. We'll talk about Trenton Henderson and Bryson Martinez, get you a practice report from today as well. So don't go anywhere. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. That's swingeasygcbr.com. If you're looking to play some golf, but you don't have 5 hours, well, go to Swing Easy. You're looking to work on your golf game, but it's raining outside, well, go to Swing Easy. It's a great opportunity to play golf on their simulator. It's a great opportunity to work on your game on their simulator. You can become a member as well. They've got corporate memberships. They've got personal memberships, and they come with some perks, especially some hours early in the month that you're able to use them. So get on by and see them. They're at Seguin at Perkins. They're on Seguin at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. It's incredible technology. They've got such awesome courses. You can play Pebble Beach. You can play Cypress Point. You can play St. Andrews. You can play Bethpage Black. You can play where they play the Tour Championship coming up at Eastlake. So it's an awesome opportunity to get on by and play some golf over at Swing Easy Golf Club. Again, they're on Seguin at Perkins. Great opportunity there, great technology, great people at Swing Easy Golf Club. So become a member or stop by today and play a little bit of golf at Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Again, they're online at swingeasygcbr.com.